the volume down?
Yeah, because if somebody says something and the microphone hears you, and it would make it a little weird if you're in here. Or otherwise, use headphones. We're live for everybody.
Welcome you to the Criminal Justice Program Mock Trial. This is a murder trial that our students are doing. I'm getting ready to bring in the bailiff and the suspect. So these kids have been working really hard preparing for this, and so I'm really proud of them. So I thank you all for coming, and I hope you enjoy.
Please rise. The Court of the Second Judicial Circuit, Criminal Division is now in session. The Honorable Judge Storm Cloud presiding.
Thank you, bailiff. Everyone but the jury may be seated. Ms. Proctor, what's today's case? And swear in the jury, please.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that you will truly listen to this case and render a true verdict and a fair sentence as this defendant?
Yes.
You may be seated.
Members of the jury, your duty today will be to determine whether the defendant is guilty or not guilty based on only facts and evidence provided in this case. The prosecution must prove that a crime was committed and the defendant is a person who committed the crime. However, if you are not satisfied of the defendant's guilt to that extent, then reasonable doubt exists and the defendant must not be found guilty. Ms. Proctor, what is today's case?
Your Honor, today's case is the State of Nevada versus Carl Armstead.
Is the prosecution ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is the defense ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
Prosecution, you may begin.
Your Honor, members of the jury, my name is Naomi Wesley, and my co-counsel and I are representing the state of Nevada in this case. We intend to prove on the day of September 1st that Carl Armstead expressed the intent to shoot and kill Timothy Egan. Carl Armstead had motive to kill Timothy Egan, and I intend to prove this by calling my witnesses Wynn Wilson, a patrol officer, Haskell Carey, a real estate developer and business partner with Timothy Egan, and Blaine Mendoza, a computer hacker and forensic investigator. Each witness will provide insight into this case, and please find Carl Armstead guilty of first-degree murder. Thank you.
Thank you. Defense?
Your Honor, members of the jury, my name is Naima Watson, and I intend to prove my client, Carolyn Armstead, was falsely accused on September 1st, 2022 by incompetence and I intend to prove that my client, Carolyn Armstead, did not only commit the the offense in which Carolyn Armstead is accused, but also showed the state's investigation was poorly, to show that the state's investigation was poorly executed and inefficient, thereby falsely pretenses and denying justice to the victim, Thomas Egan.
Thank you. Prosecution, you may call in the first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll call my first witness, Wynn Wilson.
All right. Will the witness please stand and be sworn in by the bailiff?
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
You may be seated.
Please state your name for the court.
Wynn Wilson.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name is Wynn Wilson. I'm 28 years old. I'm a deputy sheriff in Douglas County, Nevada. I have a family in law enforcement. In September 2011, I was hired by the Baltimore Police Department and attended the Baltimore Police Academy. The academy is like 27 weeks of academic, physical, and potential or practical training programs that provided me with a solid foundation in law enforcement.
What were you doing on Wednesday, September 2nd?
I was on a job in the Silver Hills Development Hill area that Tim Egan's company was putting together. I heard a lady scream. I went to see what was wrong, and there was Timothy Egan's body. Egan's body was slumped over to the left side, and he had been shot twice, once in the shoulder and once in the chest.
What else did you observe about the scene?
I didn't find any shell casings. I used a metal detector, but only revealed construction debris. The ground was soft, compact. I looked for footprints and tire tracks, and it was impossible to distinguish one print to the next because of the construction site.
Was there anything else you observed with Tim's body?
When I examined Egan's body, I saw an empty holster. Egan was known to carry a gun. I found the gun laying on the ground. The gun was a Glock 19 9mm. A forensic examination determined the gun had not been fired. After I finished my investigation of the scene, I called dispatch and told the dispatch after what I learned that there had been a company meeting in the evening of the murder. I interviewed Haskell Perry, Rudy Chin, and Val Warren.
What did you learn when you interviewed Haskell Perry?
He told me he and Egan had a meeting on September 1st at the Lucky, Vermont. The meeting was to discuss the status of the Silver Hills development, to discuss the and to put the rumors to rest of the development and company were in financial trouble. Perry blamed Carl Armstead for being the source of the rumors. Perry said she blamed Perry and Egan, and that she seemed to think that, or she had been very aggressive towards Egan.
What did you learn in the interview with Rudy Chin?
Rudy Chin told me that she had also been at the meeting at the Lucky Vermont, and she was a firm. Her firm was an investor in the Silver Hills project. So I focused my questioning on Chin and Armstead. Chin said that Armstead had told her prior to the meeting that the project was in financial trouble and that he asked Egan and Haskell about it. And Chin said she believed the meeting was in the result of that. Armstead and Egan had argued about money and about Armstead becoming a partner during the meeting.
What did you learn in Val Warren's interview?
Val Warren confirmed to me that she had been at the meeting that Armstead had argued with Egan about money. Warren also told me he had a text message exchange with Armstead about getting together and talking about the meeting, the message did include a request from Armstead that they would get together later that night. The exchange also contained information on Warren that did not initially disclose to me. One message from Armstead that she saw Egan's car, and another discussed shooting Egan if she saw him.
What happened when you confronted Carl on the stuff?
Everything I learned from Warren, or from Chin and Warren and Perry, made Armstead the prime suspect. I attempted to interview Armstead at her place of residence. I stood on the front porch and she hid behind the door. Armstead asked me, or I asked Armstead about the meeting on September 1st. She said it was the last time she saw Egan. I asked Armstead to confirm that the last time she saw Egan was at the Lucky Mormont, which she did. I confronted her with a text message that I asked Armstead to explain the shooting, about shooting Egan, and she went silent. I just was trying to find out what happened to Egan, and I asked her about the cell phone and asked if she owned any weapons. Armstead asked if she was being detained, and I told her she was not. And then I had shown Armstead, and she became flustered that she saw what she saw. But I didn't mean, I saw him for a brief second. And then she asked me again if she was being detained, and I told her she was not. And so she closed the door on me.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell me before?
Based on my training experience, people who refuse to talk to a police officer have something to hide, especially when confronted with the evidence of the crime. To me, it's an indication of guilt.
No further questions, Your Honor.
The defense may cross-examine the witness.
Can you state for the record your name again, please?
Wayne Wilson.
And can you tell me about yourself?
I'm 28 years old, and I'm a deputy sheriff out of Douglas County, Nevada.
How long have you worked for the police department?
Most of my life.
You stated that because the victim was found murdered in his housing development, you speculated a business deal gone bad, a situation which was reinforced by preliminary interviews with the victim's associates. Do you think that by going immediately to that conclusion that your investigation could have been tainted by television? Why is that?
Because after interviewing the witnesses,
After interviewing the witnesses?
yes,
That stops you from having television?
no,
Then how can you be sure you don't have television? Or that you didn't?
because I questioned 3 witnesses. And their stories are all the same.
You stated that for 5 years in Baltimore that you became really good at evidence collecting and storing. Is that true?
Yes,
That you were very good at maintaining and integrity of chain of command. Yet Mr. Mendoza stated that he received the defendant's phone by an overnight carrier. How can we be sure that the chain of custody hasn't been compromised.
Because the text messages that Carl, or not Carl, but Armstead had showed me from her phone.
Okay, no further questions, Your Honor.
You may step down. Prosecution, you may call your second witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. I will call my second witness, Perry, high school Perry.
Will the witness please stand to be sworn in by the bank?
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
You may be seated.
Please state your name for the record.
My name is Haskell Perry.
Perry, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
I am 36 years old and I work in real estate, and I moved here to South Lake Tahoe, California about 3 years ago.
How did you come to know Timothy?
I met Tim in college and became good friends with him. And I moved here to South Lake Tahoe because I was considering becoming a partner with Tim in real estate.
When did Carl Armstead come into the picture?
Carl came into the picture to do marketing and public relations. Being a local that worked in the restaurant industry, we brought them on about the same time that I got here. And there was some talk about possibly making this person a partner in the business.
Was there any change in Carl's behavior once he was hired on?
There was, some of the changes were that once they were hired on, they started treating some of our assistants, our associates that were there to help, like he was above or higher up than them, and actually he was just another employee like the rest of them, and we had issues with an attitude at that point.
So did you ever talk to Carl about this issue?
We did talk a few times about that, but mostly Tim said he was going to handle it, he would talk to him, and it would be handled.
So then what happened with the Silver Hills development project?
There was some rumors that we were having issues with the project. It was actually going on schedule. We did state that there would be some potential money flow issues at first, but everything would be sorted out by the January of the following year. But as far as I know, everything was on track.
And did Carl know this issue with delays?
As far as I know, everybody was aware, but we were upfront about everything on it.
What happened with the rumors that you've heard? How was that dealt with?
I really wasn't sure where they were coming from. We did hear from one or two people that there was potential rumors that saying that the construction was stopped, there was problems in the whole project, that everyone was going to lose money, it was just going downhill. And so we did hold a small meeting to put everyone's mind at ease that there was nothing wrong, and we went over as much as we could in that meeting, the entire team of everyone involved.
And on Tuesday, September 1st, what happened at that meeting?
Well, we met at the Lucky Marmot. The meeting was a pretty intense meeting. We went ahead and assured everybody that these rumors that had been heard that we couldn't substantiate were just false rumors. Someone was, I guess, trying to sabotage the project. We did also advise persons such as Mr. Armstead here that, there was some money flow issues, but according to the verbal agreement talk we had previously, he was aware that we would be a little short on funds right away, but by January he should have all back pay plus a substantial bonus, that we were not facing money issues, and everyone seemed to be in agreement that was fine at the time. We did have in this meeting a slight intense issue. Mr. Armstead there did confront us again about this whole partner issue that he was claimed to have been a partner. During that meeting, there was something about that Tim and I would be facing a reckoning, and we should be prepared for what's going to follow after that.
So did Carl leave the meeting upset manner.
He did storm out of the meeting in a very huffy manner. That's where I mentioned that there was something about a reckoning coming, that we should be prepared. He was tired of supposedly cleaning up all of our messes, problems, and that everyone would understand what was going on. That evening, during that time, Tim did try to talk with Carl about the fact that, he's not a partner. He was just an employee. He even tried asking him to go to the Southern Hills property to take some photos that evening of the real property that we were meeting. But other than that, everything seemed okay at the time. That was the last time that I remember seeing him.
So what happened with Tim after Carl had left the meeting?
We were some of the last ones to leave. Tim had talked about wanting to go to the properties. He didn't feel that Carl was going to go take the photos that we asked him to of the property that we needed right away for. So he said he was going to head up there and take the photos himself.
And did Tim ever receive any suspicious phone calls?
Not that I'm aware of on those. I don't, we weren't having any reason to have these kind of phone calls that were mentioned or brought up before. There was rumors about the money, but we weren't having a money flow issue.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Defense, you may cross-examine the witness.
Can you state your name for the record, please?
My name is Haskell Perry.
Can you tell me about yourself?
I am 36 years old. I work in the real estate industry. I recently moved out to South Lake Tahoe.
And how do you know the victim?
I attended college with Tim, and we became good friends while we were in college, and he even worked for my family at one point in time in our real estate business.
Do you work with him now?
No, I don't work with him now. He's deceased.
Before he was deceased?
Yes, we were working in a partnership with a project here in this area, yes.
Mr. Perry, in your statement, you met Mr. Egan in college, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Where you became friends, and after college you got him a job with your family friend?
Yes, that is correct.
You also said in your statement that he had picked a real estate game quickly. What do you mean by that?
This industry seemed to come very easily to him. Like, he understood the ins and outs very well. He was always able to make successful real estate ventures in the past, so it seemed like this was the right direction for him to be in this line of work.
But also, did he have tendencies to overestimate how well things were going?
Honestly, like anyone else, there were times that he might have made things sound one way when they weren't exactly that way, but in the outcome, turned out to be a successful real estate venture, yes.
Was you guys going in debt?
No,
Your company wasn't going under?
as far as I know, everything seemed fine, everything seemed above board.
So it must have caused you some grief that Mr. Egan played loose with the rules, even to the point where your family and the had never missed a payment on anything, and he broke that streak. Is that right?
Yes, there was one incident where my family's company had something go wrong. But that's just kind of the way Tim was. He played everything kind of loosely, but it tended to work out for him.
Did he ever miss any payments with your family?
I believe there may have been some late payments, yes.
I mean,
I don't remember off the top of my head.
true. But even then, you went to bat for him when your father wanted to fire him, right?
That's correct. I felt he should still be employed because he did make some good decisions for us as well.
Because he's still your friend?
Yes, he was still my friend at the time, but it was a business decision, not a friendship decision.
Did you feel that he should have been given a chance to make things right?
I think everyone should get a chance to make things right.
But Mr. Egan had a problem. What was that problem?
There was some issues with the alcoholism when we were in high school, not high school, college. But he, like I said, he had many successful business ventures, even with being a little bit of a drinker here and there.
A little bit? Can you specify?
Well, there was, just like I said, there was some issues with alcoholism, but it didn't affect his business apparently, and everything I've seen, he was very successful.
You don't think that it ever affected the business with your financial stabilities because you guys were going under?
No, as far as I could tell, we were not going under, and I don't think it affected this business.
So much as that's when a second payment left, he didn't wait to be fired, he just resigned, is that correct?
A second payment.
His alcoholism often seems to lead him to make bad decisions. So much as that's when a second payment left, he didn't wait to be fired, he just resigned, is that correct?
If you're referring to the family business, yes, he resigned from there instead of having to make any more issues there.
Because he was gonna get fired,
That wasn't my call, so I don't know.
but it was your family's.
Yes. I chose to leave my family's business as well. I took what was partly mine. There was a lot of issues with the family, so I took my portion of the family proceeds, and actually that's when I went into business for myself and even joined Mr. Egan here in California.
That must have really caused you grief. You go to bat for your friend, he does you and the family business wrong second time, and then you're left to clean up his mess again. Did that hurt you?
Your Honor, objection. That's not related to this case. It's irrelevant.
Sustained.
But even then, when Egan invited you out to Nevada, you took a chance on him. After all, he seemed to have got his life in order, and he has even back in the real estate business. Is that correct?
I did come out here on his request to go into working with him, yes. Everything seemed to be going fine.
In your statement, you said he paid way too much for a fixer upper houses, which made it difficult to finance through the bank. So to finance these, he went to a disreputable Russian loan shark, but that still didn't fix the issues, did it?
I was not aware of anything to be done with the loan sharks. I don't have any knowledge of that.
He went to a lot of private people on this.
He did bring in Rudy Chen to help invest into the property.
Okay, no further questions, John.
Thank you, defense. You may sit down. Prosecution, you may call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. I will call my third witness, Blaine Mendoza.
Will the witness please stand to be sworn in by bail?
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
You may speak.
Please state your name for the court.
My name is Blaine Mendoza.
Could you tell the court your educational background?
I graduated from Stanford in 1994 with a computer science degree, and I interned with Apple every summer.
Can you tell us about your incident with the Air Force?
I broke into their computer network to evaluate its security to try and help them make it better. There was no malicious or criminal intent. The intent makes all the difference in the world. I was given a deferred prosecution if I agreed to fix the system for free.
And were you ever charged?
I got all the charges dismissed.
So how did you join this case?
I frequently worked in criminal cases strictly for the prosecution. basically just, since I've done it before, then help prosecutors find evidence.
And you were hired to look into the defendants and look at his crimes.
Yes.
What did you find when you examined Harold or Carl's house at home?
I could see on his location services where he was at certain times.
Did you find any pictures on Carl's phone?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd like to bring in Exhibit 10 into the court. Could you tell us about these pictures you found on Carl's phone?
The photos on his phone had location services turned on, and it uses satellite GPS to make a note of when and where the picture was taken. The photos were taken on September 1st, 2020 at 8:05 p.m., which was shortly before the time that Egan was murdered. The pictures were taken at a cul-de-sac of a construction site. Photos are low quality, so they don't show the full extent of the project.
And what about the text messages you found?
Yeah, I found a text message exchange between Armistead and Val, in which Armistead expresses a desire to kill Egan.
What about the pictures you found with the location?
The locations at the time show that Armistead arrived at the site and took a picture of the house being built. And while he was there, he moved from where he parked up to the house, then back to Egan's car, and then he moved further south to where the body was found, and then left afterwards.
Your Honor, I'd like to bring in Exhibit 9 and Exhibit 4. So, Carl had no reason, right, to be there in that area where Ted was.
Don't believe so.
Objection, Your Honor.
What grounds?
Irrelevant. He was there.
Sustained.
So, on the map, Carl was there, and he was taking pictures, right?
Yeah, of the house.
Then he moved back to his car,
Yep.
or he passed his car, didn't he?
Yeah, he went further north to where closer to where Egan's car was.
Okay, and then he went in another direction, past his car twice, right?
Yeah, further south to where, closer to where the body was found.
To where Ted's body was found. Is there anything you'd like to say about this situation?
Yeah, there is a margin of error with the location of exact preciseness, but the location of the cars, the people there, and the events that happened match up within that margin of error.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Defense, you may cross-examine the witness.
Can you state your name for the record?
Blaine Mendoza.
Can you tell me about yourself?
I'm 46 years old. I live in Sacramento, California. I graduated from Stanford in 1984 with a computer science degree. And I now work for in criminal cases, working strictly for prosecution to help convict criminals using computer science means of technology.
So you don't hack?
Yes, that is a part of my job. In order to enter systems, to either test them or to find information that might help prosecutors.
In your statement, you stated that you only like to hack into computers, networks, to make them better known in the industry as a white hat hacker.
Yes.
But your incident with the U.S. Air Force suggests that you are, in fact, a great hat hacker, someone who is not above doing unofficial things.
Objection, Your Honor. He did it with no criminal intent.
Sustained.
Yeah, but they also did hire me afterwards to continue to fix their system.
So would you say you're not above doing the unethical things for breaking into computers and networks for malicious or criminal intent?
Objection, Your Honor. Again, he did it with no criminal intent. It's in his testimony.
Sustained.
Did you or did you not break into the Air Force
Yes, I did.
computers? Did you leave it undone and suggest that you could have did you have them offer you a job so you can fix it? Or did you fix it for them?
Well, whatever was wrong with their system was their fault, but I did agree to help them fix it. They
For a
asked me
job?
afterwards. I agreed to fix the system for free, and then they hired me afterwards to continue to work for them.
You offered to work for free for them to fix it without asking for a job?
Objection, Your Honor. You just answered the question. It's the same question.
You stated you wanted to show your skills off, but really you were actually acting as malice for your own selfish reasons to force the Air Force to hire.
Yes, what grounds?
It's the same. He had no malicious intent. It states in his testimony.
Sustained.
You stated that you visited a crime scene to check for signal strength. However, you also stated that your professional signal meter was not working correctly, and therefore you took it up on yourself to use my client's Carl Armstead's phone to measure the signal strength. Is that correct?
Can you repeat the first part of the question?
You stated that you visited the crime scene to check for a signal strength. However, you also stated that your professional signal meter was not working correctly, and therefore you took it upon yourself to use my client Carl Armstead's phone to measure the signal strength. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, his phone would be the device that we'd be testing, so directly testing the device. It's basically the same end result of how accurate his location services would have been at the time and at the place that it was used.
Would you say that was ethical or accepted by forensic technique?
Objection, Your Honor. This happened after Carl Armstead turned in his phone.
Sustained.
Yeah, so his phone was evidence that was available to the prosecution to use
For personal use?
No, it wasn't used for personal use.
Objection, Your Honor. That's not irrelevant to this case.
Sustained.
You stated you tracked the defendant's path from the restaurant to the real estate office. Then you speculated about the nature of the defendant's reasons for being there. Do you have any factual basis for the defendant's intentions at the office that day? Ms. Kendra?
Yes, it is well known that there was a gun in that real estate office, and that gun was used to commit a murder shortly after he was at that office, and at the place that he went to after he was at that office.
And can you tell me what the gun was? What kind of gun was it that was used at the murder?
Objection, Your Honor. He is here as a computer investigator, not a forensics. He's not here as a ballistics investigator.
Sustained.
Yeah, I don't know anything about guns.
I suggest keeping the questions relevant to the witness.
You stated that the victim's path stopped at 8 p.m., which you also stated gives a very accurate time of death. Yet the defendant left the construction site at 8:15 p.m. and received a call from the victim at 8:20 p.m. Can you state for the court then what factual evidence do you have then besides proximity that my client committed this crime you have falsely accused him of?
I found a text message where he plainly states that he is going to kill the victim that was killed just minutes or up to an hour beforehand, before he was murdered. It was a text message exchange between Armistead and Val.
Exhibit 5. Okay, no further questions.
Thank you. Now the defense may call its first witness. You may step down. You may call your witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to call Rudy Chin to the stand.
Will the witness please stand to be sworn in by the bailiff?
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
You may be seated.
Can you state your name again for the court, please?
Yes, my name is Rudy Chen.
And can you tell me about yourself and your position?
Yes. I'm an investment banker, and my friend is in California. And as a little kid, I was always interested in money, what to buy. And I learned from my dad how to get into the business. And so I grew up in Orange County, California with him, and that's how we became lifelong friends. And I got my degree from Seawood College within Pepperdine. So I also got my MBA from the University of Nevada in Reno.
Very impressive. Do you know Timothy Egan?
Yes, we were friends from college. And I had also been hired on by him to work in accounts with the financial side of things with his business.
Did you just know him in college?
Yes, we were lifelong friends.
And how well do you know him now? Or did you know him?
Well, I'm sorry.
sorry, could you repeat the question?
How well do you know, or how well did you know Mr. Egan before his death?
Being in college together and then also working with him, I would say I know a decent amount, pretty good.
What kind of relationship would you say you had with the victim?
It was very well. I would say that it was more friends than on the business side, but also business friends. And I knew in high school and him were friends, but they were drinking buddies and I didn't drink, so I wasn't really close to high school. I was close with Tim in that aspect.
Do you know my client, the defendant, Mr. Carl Armstead?
Yes. So when Tim had hired me to work in the financial side of things for the Silver Hills, he had hired on Carl as well. And so he asked me to help him with the financial side of things so I could kind of get him into the business of working with. And I was impressed with him. He caught on pretty quick with learning the financial side of things. They even gave him a college textbook because he did so well.
Ms. Judd, can you please elaborate for the court the business plans discussed between you and Mr. Egan about his plans for real estate?
So initially, Tim and Val had an idea for around 20 lots, which would sell. They thought would be around $1 million each, but I thought that was too risky. Because as an investment banker, I have to weigh the pros and the cons, and given the property sales in the area, I thought that would be, there would have to be a high-end buyer, and those are rare out there, but not that they're not out there. But I just didn't want to put my money as a firm. I didn't want to put that much money on the line for them.
And did Mr. Egan ask you to fund his project?
Yes, he did.
Did you?
Yes, we agreed upon $4 million.
Did you and Mr. Egan keep in touch?
Yes, it was routine to check in to see how everything was going.
Would you say that overall Mr. Timothy Egan was a fair and honest businessman?
I had suspicions people were coming to me, and every time I would confront him about it, he would say everything was going well. So I had no reason to not believe him.
And why do you suppose he chose to withhold Mr. Carl Armstead's wages and no one else's?
I had heard they were in financial trouble, but I don't know why he would withhold his.
Do you think he had the financial stability to pay him his wages?
At the time, I had thought he did, but hearing rumors, there were always rumors going around, but I can't say. I would think so, but I'm not.
Have you ever worked for Haskell Perry or his family's firm?
Yes, I had recently got out of college, so I interned for them and worked for them after college.
Can you explain further to the courts what you meant when you said you got to know the principals of the Haskell's family?
Yes. My firm had invested money in some other California real estate developments, so I worked on some of the Perry deals when I started. My boss had told me that the Perrys were an excellent risk and had historically never missed a payment. Although there had been a couple in 2019, Val was also with him, and he said he worked with a design firm that was responsible for the infrastructure.
Would you agree that your boss, during the 2 summers of your internship, that the Perrys were an excellent risk and had historically never missed any payment?
Yes, but there had been a couple in 2019.
What was Carl Armstead's position and the reasoning for Mr. Egan's hiring him? Please explain the court.
Originally, he hired Carl to do marketing and PR. He was very personable, so I could see why Tim would hire him.
What was one of your main jobs regarding the investment as you stated previously in your statement?
What was one of
Your main jobs?
them? So one of my main jobs was to help Carl to,
Regarding investment.
oh. Could you repeat the question? I'm not sure I understand.
What was one of your main jobs regarding the investment, as you stated previously in your statement?
One of my main jobs regarding the investment was to make sure that they were getting everything approved and everything was going accordingly. And so my firm would be able to uphold the money that they had given Carl and his team.
And did you and Mr. Egan come to a settlement on the development?
Yes, we did.
How much money did your firm put up for Egan's real estate development?
It was $4 million.
And what all would that large sum of money be used to cover with be used to cover this check?
That would cover the front money to the landowners, the cost of getting approval, and the work that Dallas funds to put into the infrastructure, which is streets and utilities, and sent to the lines.
What was the business argument that Haskell and Timothy Egan agreed to for this deal, for his deal from your firm?
So Tim and Haskell had guaranteed us a minimum 10% return, with the principal and return due in full after the sale of 15 lots. If the principal and guaranteed return were not repaid by December 31st, 2020, we would get an additional 1% for each additional month.
And did Egan and Haskell's plans to sell the lots work out as they had hoped?
No, they were falling behind immediately. But that just meant more money for me and my firm, so.
Can you state for the court what alarmed you after you traveled back to Tahoe in August of 2020, 1 month before the murder?
Yes, I had a face-to-face meeting with Carl regarding the financial development at Brown Hills, and I was surprised he expressed skepticism about whether the project would succeed. There was a possible worst-case scenario going on, and that the lots would sell in time, and he was afraid that Tim and Haskell would go under. And again, I told Carl I wasn't worried. I was confident the lots would sell, even if it took 3 extra months.
In your statement, you stated that you told Carl, the defendant, you were confident that the lots would sell, like you just stated, even if it took a few extra months. That is correct, yeah. Can you explain for the record, please, exactly what you meant and why Carl was concerned that Timothy Egan and Haskell Perry could not afford to keep paying him?
Well, he stated he needed steady income. And I confess, I felt a little sorry for him, and I told him I would make a short-term loan, and she could pay me back when things were stabilized.
Do you believe that Carl killed Mr. Egan for money?
Of
Why
course,
or why not?
it was not for money. I don't understand why he charged me with murder. I had offered to pay him money, to give him a loan for that. So, he would not murder him for money.
So can you repeat for the court? You don't think he would kill Mr. Egan, right?
No, I don't understand why he charged me with murder.
Can you state to the court the final date can you state to the court the final date of the trip that you made to Tahoe?
The final date was September 1st, 2020.
The day of murder?
Yes, for the meeting.
And the reason for your return, please?
I was checking on the financial status of the Silver Hills project. There were rumors going around about the project, that the project was in trouble. So I came up expecting to talk to the more official, but instead it was kind of dingy bar.
And did you have a good meeting?
The meeting was more of a circus than anything.
Can you explain?
I had not been aware of all the attention in the firm, and that's when I was concerned of Carl's worst case scenario happening, or becoming more likely. So again, I asked him about the schedule, and he told me for the first time that they were in danger of falling further behind. The approvals were late, between infrastructure late, and buyers were scarce.
And did any concerns arise from this with you or with your firm?
Yes. Actually, Val had told me something about Tim getting private loans, and that's when I became alarmed. Part of our deal was that there would be no other lenders without my approval, and if what Val has said is true, Tim violated our agreement.
Was there any way that you can confirm that what she said, what Val said was true?
I just asked him for assurances that there would be enough cash flow to correct the private lenders and finish the project. He said he was confident, but I would say the project would still succeed.
In your statement, you stated that you excused yourself to make a phone call to your assistant. Is that correct?
Yes, I did.
Explain the content and reason of your phone call, please.
So I made a call to my assistant, and so we routinely get a key person insurance policy anytime we make an investment. That just means that if something happens to the key person in the process, where they can't work due to disability or they're dead, that we're covered enough to replace the person or be reimbursed for any losses. And when I had called my assistant, I asked to pull the policy on Tim. And I had him review it over the phone for me, and my assistant told me that as long as the firm did not cause Tim's death, the policy would pay out if something happened to him. In fact, it did, sadly. Sadly, Tim was worth more to the firm dead than alive.
Can you repeat that last part, please?
Sadly, Tim was worth more to the firm dead than alive.
So in the event of death or disability of Timothy Egan, that your firm would be replaced, or that your firm would replace the person or reimburse for any losses or projects? That's right, correct?
Yes.
And how much would that be?
It was over $4 million plus the interest and everything.
Ms. Jen, that you stated in your statement that Mr. Egan is worth more dead than alive to your firm. Sorry, my bad. Excuse that. Do you believe that that Carl Armstead was so upset the night of the victim's death that Carl Armstead did indeed murder Mr. Timothy Egan? Why or why not?
I can only speculate that he would of course be upset because he was working with him.
But do you believe that he would kill him?
Of course not, none of him.
But not over money, does that mean that you think he would kill him?
No, sorry, no, I do not believe that.
Thank you. And your firm having Mr. Egan worth more dead than alive, do you think someone from your firm could have had him killed?
Anything's possible.
I object, Your Honor, it's speculation.
Sustained.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Prosecution, you may cross-examine the witness.
Please state your name for the court.
My name is Ruby Chen.
And you worked in business with Timothy Egan?
Yes,
So you were friends with Timothy Egan?
yes,
Did you ever talk to the Tim about Carl on the side?
yes,
Is it true that you thought Carl would make a good partner in a few years?
with more experience, yes.
Did Tim tell you that he would make Carl a partner before the end of this year?
Yes, that was surprising to me.
Did Carl ever know about that information?
I don't know.
Do you agree that it was a risk for Carl, for Tim to partner with Carl?
Yes, for sure.
Was Carl ever known to be afraid to assert himself?
He was not afraid to assert himself or say what was on his mind.
Did Carl tell you concerns he had about the project in August?
Yes, he talked about the financial side of things, that he didn't think it would be good.
And did you tell Carl that you were not worried about Project Build because you thought you were confident it would sell?
Yes, I was very confident.
And did you also offer Carl a loan to help the state for August?
Yes,
And did that put Carl at ease?
yes, he felt more confident to be able to stick these things out.
So he was confident enough to stay at the company under Tim's front?
Yes,
Was it at the meeting of September 1st that you learned that there was financial trouble with the project?
yes,
And did you make a call to your assistant about a key person insurance policy?
yes. We routinely get a key person anytime we make an investment.
So if the key person were to die or to become disabled, there would be insured money to replace the key person, correct?
Yes, or be reimbursed for any losses.
And did your assistant tell you that there was a key person for this project?
Yes,
And was this key person Timothy Egan?
the policy.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Defense, you may call your next witness.
Your Honor, I call to the stand Army Lewis.
May the witness please stand to be sworn in.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
You may be seated.
You state for the record your name again, please.
My name is Amari Lewis.
And can you tell me about yourself and your occupation?
My name is Amari Lewis. I'm 48 years old. I have a bachelor's in mechanical engineering from Northern Arizona University and my master's in mechanical engineering from the University of Las Vegas, Nevada.
Thank you. As opposed to the investigative officer in D1, you have signified training and experience when it comes to ballistics. After examining the evidence in full, do you think the law enforcement lab did its job efficiently?
I do not.
Why is that? Can you explain?
They failed to collect the shell casings from the scene, which caused a struggle in me to do my part of the investigation.
You stated after the thorough examination of the bullets, even going so far as to use in comparison microscope, none of the tool marks matched up with. We can say definitely the defendant's weapon is not the murder weapon. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Does the lack of the shell casings along with the other evidence, in your opinion, conclusively show another gun was used, maybe?
That is correct.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Prosecution, you may cross-examine the witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Could you please state your name for the court?
My name is Amari Lewis.
And you are a firearms engineer, correct?
That is correct.
Have you been hired by Carl Armistad's defense attorney 30 times before this trial?
That is correct.
So you testify exclusively for defendants in criminal trials,
That is correct.
and you have never been hired to do prosecution work.
That is correct.
Prosecution, you've got the money.
Is ballistics considered a real science?
A lot of people don't consider ballistics to be a real science, but that's really just not the case. It is true that while ballistics uses scientific methods and instruments, ballistics involves a lot of nuance and subjectivity, but that doesn't make it unscientific.
So has there been any studies or statistical findings to demonstrate the scientific reliability of ballistics?
Objection, Your Honor. The question,
Could you be more specific?
repeating the same question, basically. Irrelevant.
I'm going to say sustained, because I didn't hear the question.
Does forensic evidence rely on the analysis of full marks?
It does.
And is it true that these full marks are not perfect?
That is correct.
And that these full marks are not as unique as fingerprints are?
That is also correct.
Is there a set standard for tool mark similarities on, say, the bullet that would need to be found for an identification?
There are many things that we look for when it comes to the tool markings on certain types of guns to compare them to the weapon that was used at the scene. We do multiple steps to just kind of determine the angle of the process, like the shooting of the gun and things. Yes,
But there is no set standard for those similarities.
that is correct.
And would you say that the shooter had planned the murder of Timothy Eaton by picking up the shell casings?
We find it very unique that the shell casings were missing, but a lot of times murders aren't planned out that far for the shooter to collect the shell casings.
So would you say that the shooter did plan that by picking up the shell casings?
I do not believe the shooter picked up the shell casings.
Any instance that they did, would you say it was planned?
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Defense, you may call your next witness. In the room, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. I call to the stand Baldwin.
Will the witness please stand to be sworn in by the bailiff?
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Maybe.
Can you state for the record your name, please?
My name,
And your occupation?
my name is Val Warren. I'm 54 years old, and my occupation is an architectural designer.
So can you tell me about how well do you know the victim, Mr. Timothy Eaton?
Oh, I know him quite well. I worked for him for a time, and he was just like an old car salesman. He likes to talk about himself. I knew him quite well.
How well did you know the defendant?
Carl, I knew Carl is my buddy. Carl is my friend. He was a waiter down at the cafe I used to visit regularly for breakfast, and we just naturally became friends. I'm from Florida. I work hard. He worked hard. Like I said, he was a waiter working for tips and stuff, and we just kind of connected that way. He knew the beauty of some hard work.
Would you agree that your relationship with Mr. Armstead was a close and personal one?
Yeah, we were really good friends. Yeah, we were good friends.
Is it fair to say that you guys like to joke around?
All the time, all the time. Carl is a funny guy. He told jokes all the time. He was definitely a funny guy.
When the subject was brought up about my client wanting to shoot Mr. Egan, did you take him seriously? Or
No,
why not?
no. Because like I said, we told jokes all the time. And it was Are you talking about the text message?
Yes.
And it was via text, so of course it was, naturally, it's a joke. That's where we used to play all of the shows, on the phone, the text messages.
Do you think Carl Armstead killed Mr. Egan? Why or why not?
Absolutely not. Carl doesn't have a violent bone in his body. I mean, look at him. He looks like a 7th grade volleyball coach. He wouldn't hurt anybody.
Can you remind me once again, please? Just for the record, how well you do know Carl Armstead?
I'd say I know him fairly well. We're just really good friends. I'm kind of the reason why he got introduced to Tim in the first place, because I was friends with Tim first, and I kind of introduced them and put them together. Carl was interested in real estate and wanted to get some knowledge of the business, and I kind of put them together. So I'd say I know him pretty well.
Would you say the private individuals that Timothy got his loans from was shady or scandalous, being that they were private investments?
100%. Definitely shady. Tim has some shady stuff going on. Absolutely. He did. He talked about it like that. He used to have little sneaky phone conversations where he was whispering with people on the phone. Absolutely. There was some shaky stuff going on with Tim.
And why would you say that?
Just based on his demeanor when he was on the phone. He was always kind of being secretive when he would talk to certain people. Tim was the kind of guy that would always announce who he was talking to. If he was talking to Haskell, he announced it. If he was talking to Rudy, he said Rudy. But when he was talking to these private lenders, he would kind of be secretive and quiet and, oh, I got your money and stuff like that. And it just sounded shaky.
Has there ever been a romantic relationship between you and Carl?
Not now, not then, not never.
Can you please clarify for the court? You did hear Mr. Egan say he got loans from private individuals?
Absolutely, multiple times he said that.
And how did Mr. Armstead appear after the discussion came up about being paid?
Well, naturally, Carl was coming to work every day and not receiving a paycheck, so he was just a tiny bit irritated, but I think anybody would be if you were going to work every day and not getting a paycheck, so it all made sense to me. It wasn't alarming or anything. Didn't have any more attitude than necessary.
And do you think it would be possible or plausible that the victim was killed by someone other than the defendant?
Absolutely. I mean,
Objection, Your Honor, that's
Haskell could have killed him.
It's speculation.
Sustained.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Prosecution, you may cross-examine the witness.
Please state your name for the court.
My name is Val Warren.
And you are an architectural designer, correct?
I am,
And you were friends with Carl Armstead.
definitely.
And you would be willing to help Carl with any financial trouble he was having.
Be willing to help him with any financial situation?
Yeah, he was having.
Yes, if he needed
Such
money, I
as-
would be willing to lend it to him, sure.
Which has the small paychecks he was receiving.
You mean to supplement for his paychecks?
Yes, like just to help him anytime he needed help.
Absolutely, we were that good of friends, yes.
So your connection with Carl is based on how you made you feel.
My connection with Carl was what?
Is based on how you made you feel.
How he made me feel?
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor, irrelevant.
Sustained.
Did your friendship with Carl lead you to believe that he had no real possibility to become your partner with his partner?
Well, that's an interesting question. I mean, Carl had no background in real estate or anything like that. He was definitely interested in the business, and he wanted to learn more, and he was eager to learn more. He took notes every time I would tell him stuff and things of that nature, but, I mean, he had no background in PR or real estate. So it's not that I didn't believe he would ever be partner, but it just seemed a little far-fetched.
So you can understand why Tim never made Carl a partner before he passed.
I can understand why, no, because like I said, he would be able to reach that level at some point. Maybe not after 7 days, but he could absolutely work his way up there, sure. He could be a partner.
Did you think that Carl had, or Tim had saw the same flaws in Carl as you did?
One more time?
Did you think that Tim saw the same flaws in Carl as you did on becoming a partner?
Objection, Your Honor, relevant.
Overruled.
That's a tough one. Like I said, I don't see any flaws in Carl. I wouldn't call them flaws. I would just say he's inexperienced, like we all are when we're just starting out in the business. But, I mean, I wouldn't call them flaws. I wouldn't call them flaws.
But you can see why he wasn't hired as a partner.
Yeah, at the beginning, sure, I can see that.
And you don't really like having Tim around.
Carl and Tim?
Just Tim.
It's not that I didn't like him, he just came across like an old used car salesman. He just was always talking about himself, and he liked himself very much. He liked that gun he used to carry, and he was always flashing it around. He just was a flashy guy. He was always talking about himself.
And you think that he can do anything or he's not without his firm?
So I think he would do something.
Just work on this, he can do business without your firm.
No, he could do business. He chose to do business with our firm.
And you were always the project lead.
I was always the project lead.
So before the meeting on September 1st, you had saw Tim open a safe in his office.
That is correct.
And you saw that there was money in that safe.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Sure did.
And after the meeting on September 1st, did Carl mention that money in the safe?
Carl did mention the money in the safe because it made sense. It made sense. It was all part of the conversation. He mentioned the money in the safe because he wasn't being paid for his job. He wasn't getting any salary for his job. And if there was money in the safe, it made sense that Carl would be paid from that money. And I definitely saw it.
Well, Carl was being paid for his job. He just had a smaller paycheck than he would have. But Carl wanted
Well, I don't know that. I don't know that.
Well, Carl wanted him to use the money from the safe as back pay.
Objection, Your Honor, badgering a witness.
Overruled.
What was my point?
But Carl wanted him to use the money from the safe as back pay. Correct.
Yes, he did say that. He did say that.
And this caused a disagreement between Carl and Tim.
Yes, there was a disagreement between the two of them, yes.
And then Carl proceeded to ask Tim if he could be a partner. Right.
He proceeded to ask him what...
Objection, Your Honor, leading the witness.
Still leave the witness.
Overruled.
He did proceed to ask him that because he wanted to know what the next step was in him being a partner.
So when Tim told him no, did Tim tell Carl to take photos of the spec house? Did Tim tell Carl to take pictures of the spec house?
Yes, Tim very rudely reminded Carl that he was an employee, not a partner, and he needed to go and take his pictures. Yes, he did.
And before Carl left, did he say that's the way it's going to be?
I don't recall that statement, no.
It says in the testimony, that's what he said.
Okay, it says it then. I don't necessarily recall him being mean and nasty when he walked out and saying that, but
Objection, Your Honor, leading the witness.
Overruled.
they both had a heated exchange between the two of them. Carl was naturally upset about no money being given to him, and Tim was a little irritated because his buddies were there, Haskell and Rudy.
I want you to read this line right here. This is what it states in your testimony.
Carl looked at him for a few seconds and said, so that's the way it's going to be, and left. So that's the way it's going to be, and left.
Yes. So you did say that in your testimony. Did Carl text you while he was at the construction site?
He did.
Your Honor, I'd like to enter the evidence exhibit 5.
Okay.
And did he text you that he saw Tim's car?
Did he text me that what?
That he saw Tim's car, Tim's vehicle, at the construction site?
He did.
And did Carl text you about shooting Tim?
He did say that in the text message. He also said LOL and a lot of other jokes and things that indicated that he was joking. But yes, he did say that.
And you didn't think Carl was being serious in his text message?
No, not at all. Again, he's not a violent person. He's never been a violent person the entire time I've known him.
Even after seeing Carl leaving the meeting in an upset manner?
Absolutely. Yes, everything made sense. It all added up. He was upset about the money. Tim was the one that promised him that partnership. Carl didn't snatch that out the sky. Tim told him that. So he had every right to be slightly irritated when he left that meeting. It all made sense to me. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary.
And did Carl stay at your house for an hour after leaving the construction site?
Did he stay at my house for an hour? Yes.
And while he was at your house, you told Carl that you would give him any money if he needed it?
Give him any amount of what?
Any money if he needed it?
Yes, he's my friend. Absolutely. Like most people would do for a friend that wasn't getting a paycheck.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. You may sit down. Both the prosecution and defense have now rested their cases. The attorneys will now present their final arguments. Prosecution, you may begin.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the jury, today you have heard testimony about the events of September 1st. I would like to remind you of some information that you should consider important in your decision. Carl wanted to have the same power and the same authority as Timothy Eden. Carl wanted to treat assistants of Tim and Haskell like they were his own. Carl figured that during the meeting on September 1st, that Timothy Eden did not want Carl as a partner. So when Carl realized that Tim's car was parked at the construction site, he went looking for Tim. While Carl was looking for Tim, he had texted Val Warren about shooting Tim. This would be considered premeditation. Carl had no reason to look for Tim other than to shoot him. Once Carl found Tim, he waited until he was in range. Carl pulled out his gun, he aimed at Tim, and he pulled the trigger twice. Carl shot twice to make sure Timothy Eden was dead. When Carl proceeded to pick up the shell casings, he did this because he envisioned shooting Tim out of rage and revenge. Carl shot Timothy Eden because he couldn't handle the months he spent of rejection. Months of small paychecks. The denial of his chance to become a partner became too much for Carl Armstead to handle. Carl Armstead had many offers from his coworkers who would help him financially. You've heard his testimony from many of my witnesses and the defense witnesses. They had offered to help him financially. But Carl only wanted to be paid by Timothy Eden. Carl Armstead shot Timothy Eden because he wanted him to pay for his life. Please find the defendant, Carl Armstead, guilty of first-degree murder. Thank you.
Thank you. Defense, you may proceed with your closing argument.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the jury, today you have heard the testimonies and the evidence of the prosecuting, what the prosecutor has against my client, Carl Armstead. Based on the trainings and experience, I would like to remind you of some of the important information that you should consider in your decision. In these facts includes, but based on the training and experience and examinations of James Smithy, Sergeant. Sergeant Smith Sergeant Douglas of the County Sheriff's Department. Based on my training and experience and examinations he conducted, that his opinion within a reasonable degree of scientific certainty is that it is inconclusive whether test 1 was fired by either the Glock 26 or the Glock 19. Based on his training and experience and examination, he conducted an opinion within a reasonable degree of scientific certainty is that it is inconclusive whether test 2 was fired by either the Glock or the 26 and the Glock 19 also. Exhibit.
Objection, Your Honor. You can't admit evidence in your final statement or your closing statement. It's only during the...
Sustained. Won't be taking this into consideration.
And by incompleted and ineffective police investigation by Officer Reed to prove my client, Carolyn Armstead. Oh my God. Okay. There are a lot of different aspects of killers for Mr. Egan. But the evidence presented here today has been all circumstantial against my client. Nothing presented today has been proven beyond a reasonable doubt. Jury, take all of this into consideration, please, during your deliberation today.
Thank you, defense. Members of the jury, you have heard the testimony concerning this case. It is now up to you to determine the facts. You and you alone are the judges of the facts. Once you decide what facts this evidence proves, you must then apply the law as I give it to you, to the facts that you find. And that law is, the defendant here is convicted of first-degree murder, which in the state of Nevada is punishable by death or 50 years to life imprisonment. In just a moment, the bailiff will take you to the jury room to consider your verdict. One of the first things you will want to do is select the foreperson. We have. It will be the foreperson's duty to sign the verdict form when you have agreed on a verdict. Whatever verdict you render must be unanimous, which means each person and every person must agree on the same verdict. The bailiff will now escort you to the deliberation room.
All rise.
You may be seated and talk quietly. Give us a good pose. Oh, okay. What if I do a little point thing?
Just dignified.
Oh, I'll be dignified. Got it?
Yep.
Last time we're gonna see it in.
Oh, that's another thing. When the jury gets back, I don't want no noise from the crowd, no noise from this. A few of you was being a little bit too loud, especially the group back in the back there. They ain't here, but if they was, I'd still say the same thing. Making noise in my courtroom.
Do you think it was decent?
There you go. We're excluding this one, so I'm gonna keep it here. And make sure your phone is on silent now.
Judge, can we go through it?
Yes, you can.
I'm gonna put my ringer on now.
You do, and you're going to jail if he gets found guilty with him.
You can go put these on.
I'll be your cellmate.
Or you'll have
I get
one
to talk
all
about
to
it.
yourself. Who
Let's
knows?
talk about it.
I will not hesitate to hold people to the court.
I know they just fell in front of you while we were the handcuffs.
I was uncomfortable.
It's just a good deterrent to make sure you never actually do something else.
It was getting hot.
Never find yourself in
Then I
a
was getting
situation.
thirsty. Then I was getting thirsty. I was about to go like that. Put it.
They're gonna give you a severe sentence of death or 50 years.
But they have to agree. Has to be unanimous.
Hey guys, once the jury gets done, we'll do a group picture before any of you guys leave, okay? Of the jury as well. And then as soon as we're done, we're gonna help maintenance break this room down, okay?
100%.
Yes.
If y'all leave without help, then you get F's in her class.
I didn't tell him to say that.
He makes up his own.
Someone read the jury wrong. Thank you. If the bailiffs were here, I'd have her arrest you. I need to have multiple bailiffs. Why can't I have multiple bailiffs?
Yes.
I could have touched my funding officers, whoever.
Please do not run.
Ooh. Y'all better watch them, because I'm not. I don't get paid to tackle, I just get paid to judge. And trust me, I'm very good at judging people. I just don't kill people. Honestly, I would. I would. You're not gonna get away with it. And since you're already booked and caught, if I break the news, they ain't gonna work no other way. If you don't come back, we'll come looking for you. And we got tasers and billy clubs and Sit dogs.
Oh, did they get a verdict?
No, he's using the bathroom. And we got an army of hamsters to come after you, so don't try that. They're called the chip horse. I named them the chip horse. This is something cute. Where will I know we're recording, but where will it be if someone wants to watch it?
It's on YouTube. Go to the Facebook, College of Muskogee Nation Facebook page, and there's a link.
Okay.
It'll take you right to YouTube.
I'm gonna stretch my legs a little bit. Sitting up here is tiring.
Go ahead.
Taking my phone because people like to steal. But the game started if I'm not here, so I'm your best Paul.
You're the cop. You're the cop. You sound like a cop. You sound real official. You sound real official.
And I can't study the night before. I have to do it like right there. I just do it like, I'm really fresh in my mind. I didn't study it last night. I didn't even catch up. But it's like, I'm gonna get here early, write it out, and then that's the only way. Even though I done read through my sleep. But you know, I said, I told you from the beginning, I said, you're going down. She's gonna get you for long. I tried to make it sound funny and everything.
Sit down. Sit down. We had a run. Sit down. I was holding on to his arm. I said, this is promo one. He said, it'll work.
I was saying earlier, Aunt Bree was up to about an hour.
Hey, Aaron, will your arms fall asleep?
Oh,
Will your arms fall asleep like this?
yeah, my shoulders, I was like,
It looks very uncomfortable.
and I was getting hot, and I was getting thirsty, and I was like, well, I'm gonna go drink my water.
So I told him to check on you. I was like, his arms are probably about to fall.
I was gonna go like that and drink my water.
Are they done?
I don't know yet.
Rush them.
That's what I was saying, like, hey, that's, he was gonna come down to the jurors, he was gonna like,
Yeah, additional revocation. Yeah.
What's for lunch?
Chicken enchiladas.
Yeah, I'm starving.
So should we break, have lunch, and then come fix the room?
What's for lunch? No.
chicken enchilada.
It shouldn't take very long for all of us to do it. We did it, we set it up with less people. So. Do you want to? Yeah, plan? Sure. Yeah. It's extra. You feel good?
Yeah. Oh, you mean about this decision?
Yeah.
Are you nervous? You feel like your fate's?
I feel like they're probably not going to agree, so might be hung jury.
You feel like you're about to go home?
Yeah, I'm about to get these off.
Especially with Tevin and, yeah,
Yeah, they're not going to agree.
Yeah,
That's
they're
what I
not.
feel.
yeah.
Because that's why they're still in there.
Yeah.
Not going to be able to
They'll
agree.
probably end up arguing, it's hard for them.
Yeah. So the longer they take, then that's even better for them.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
They're trying to think of how hard to make the punishment.
I wouldn't be surprised if they find you guilty.
Even though we know what it's happening now, they take away my friend. Away my buddy.
How often do you do mock trials? How often do you do mock trials?
It's the first time I've ever done it.
I was like, we should do it more often. I think we should do it like every semester.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. You guys are doing really good
So
job.
you can promote your programs more.
Yeah, a lot of times I just haven't had time, you know, other things going on.
Yeah, it gives people a chance, get the feel of it.
Yeah.
Like this.
Oh, gives you the feel for crime, committing a crime.
See how you make studies and show you what it's like to be in a court environment. It takes a lot of character to keep yourself composed and not losing over what you're even talking about.
Yeah. And also just the law enforcement too, because they look for criminals, not
That's a good stuff. We just saying because you don't even know who doesn't care. Even by yeah.
It's going to be interesting if PB incorporates making part of the final. Work hard in class.
Oh, I know that.
That'll be great because make more space.
They're heading in.
Oh, yeah, that's
I can put this back here.
We have some library, cafes that we have here, and then we have
Wait, I didn't know that.
Yeah, my name is not even in here.
defense attorney.
She was getting lunch with us. Okay, but like, can you wait? The prosecutor, the defendant is here. The defense attorney is here. She went to go get lunch with us. We didn't know what time it was going to be done. We thought time. I'm back. Ooh. Best of luck to you. Best of luck to you. If you found guilty, don't try to run. Because this wig can come off like a transformer. Because this wig is too expensive to try to run. And if you win, congratulations. But if you lose, congratulations.
Mark Carter.
Oh, this, right?
I mean, study more.
So nervous, I don't even look cute in this dress.
So again, next week.
We got all our main people.
Your Honor,
Quiet in the court, please.
we have reached a verdict.
All righty. Bring them in. Will the defendant please rise? Moment of truth. Has you reached a verdict?
Yes, Your Honor.
What saith you?
We, the jury in the state of Nevada versus Carl Armstead, found the defendant not guilty of the first-degree murder.
Thank you, jury, for your service. Unhandcuff the man. Congratulations. Oh, court is adjourned.
He probably needed That's your one get out of jail free.
You almost got,
Can I take a group picture real quick?
you almost got cooked, buddy. You was found guilty. I was gonna spare no expense in electrocuting you. I have someone spinning, grip. Who did I get it from?
All the short people in the back.
Y'all just got in front of me, and I was behind me, but it's fine.
Yeah. Is everybody? Okay, everybody say not guilty.
This goes to the electric chair.
All right.
Got another one.